Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And here with us today is the high demand coach, Dr. Noah St. John, who's known worldwide as the father of AFFORMATIONS and the creator of the 12-week breakthrough. Working with Hollywood celebrities, professional athletes, and eight-figure company CEOs, Noah is famous for helping people make more in just 12 weeks than in the previous 12 months while winning their lives back. He helps Fortune 5000 companies turbocharge their productivity and profitability without sacrificing mental wellness. And he's also a multi-best-selling author. But today we're going to talk a lot about his book, The Seven-Figure Expert, Your Ultimate Guide to Life with More Impact, Influence, and Financial Freedom. Well, Dr. Noah St. John, so exciting having you here today. In your book, you outline what you call the seven-figure expert formula. So my question for you is, first, what is it? And two, who listening today might benefit from it?
This book, The Seven-Figure Expert, is for any entrepreneur, solopreneur, coach, consultant, chiropractor, health professional, network marketing professional, real estate professional. I felt all of the above and more, who really want to scale up to that seven-figure level. Of course, the first milestone in business is reaching that six figures, right? The six figures, that's a dream of a lot of, millions of entrepreneurs. But then the next level is really that seven-figure level. Once you're at that seven-figure level, you're bringing in about 100K a month. Life is pretty good, but you're really needing to put these things in place. And quite frankly, the reason that most entrepreneurs are not able to scale up to that six and seven-figure level is because they're not following what I give you in the book, in the Seven-Figure Expert, in the Seven-Figure Expert formula. So to answer that question, what is the Seven-Figure Expert formula? So this comes from 30 years of coaching people, as you mentioned, Hollywood celebrities, athletes, people of all, from all around the world, helping them to really make more in 12 weeks than I did in the previous 12 months.
Yeah.
While winning their lives back. So it really comes down to these 5 phases, right? The 5 phases of my seven-figure expert formula are beliefs, habits, offers, funnels, and traffic. All right. Now, it's pretty simple. It sounds simple. And I mean, there's a difference between simple and easy, right? Simple means like, okay, I can follow this. And I really give you in the book, a breakdown of exactly how to do it. But what's missing for most people is they're just missing one or more of those elements. And that is, in fact, the thing that's keeping them from scaling up.
Right.
So that's really what the seven-figure expert is all about.
I love that. And I love the way that it's laid out, particularly in the book. It's so easy to follow. And I found myself keep going back to again and again the earlier parts of the book, particularly this idea of beliefs. So I want to unpack this a little bit. In your book, you identify what you believe is the real problem, right? You talk a lot about symptoms and how even as coaches, many of us are guilty of symptom chasing, and we're missing the real root problem. And one of those real problems you identify is what you call the income ceiling syndrome. So what is that, and how does it show up for entrepreneurs?
So let me give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example to illustrate exactly what's going on here. So I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles for about 1,000 entrepreneurs. These are 6, 7, 8-figure CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, some really cream of the crop, right? So I was speaking for about 30 minutes on exactly what we're talking about right now. I was walking off the stage and a man came up to me and he said, "Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You are the coach I've been looking for." Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. So you can see his video and many others on our website. But anyway, so I said, "Okay, well, what's going on?" He goes, "Noah, I own this company and we've hit 7 figures, but we have been plateaued for the past 4 years. And we have hit that income ceiling exactly like you were just talking about." And he said, "I have thrown so much money at the problem. I've hired all these gurus, all these marketing guys." He named all the names. And he said, "But we just can't break through that ceiling." He said, "But as soon as I heard you speak about inner game and outer game and head trash, everything you just said," he said, "I knew you were the coach I've been looking for." So he said, "I want to hire you." So that's why I love working with high achievers, right, Scott? I mean, we know that, right? We love working with high achievers because they make decisions quickly and friendly. They don't dilly-dally, don't mess around. So he literally hired me on the spot. So I coached him and his team for about 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to scale his business that had been stuck, plateaued for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in sales in less than 18 months. That's a 600% increase. That's what we like to call hockey stick growth, right?
Yes.
You go along like this and then whoop, hockey stick, right? So it's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. So the point is, what's the moral of the story, and what does this mean for all the folks listening and watching? Well, the point is that, if you find yourself on that at that income ceiling, right? No matter what you do, you're on that treadmill and working really hard, but just can't break through, and everything seems to be about the same. It's really because, like I said a moment ago, you're missing one of these elements. You're missing now for him, for Adam, and quite frankly, for 90% of my clients, it's the inner game that's missing. So remember, Adam and many others are spending lots of money on all this outer game stuff, all the marketing, the
Mm.
sales, and all that stuff, which you have to do that. You can't not do it. But see, that's where everybody's focused, but they're ignoring the inner game. And the inner game is what's keeping most people stuck.
Right. And I love because we've had folks on the show who have really dialed in on some inner game things, and then we have folks on the show who dial into some tactics and some outer stuff.
Yep.
What I love about the book is that those are inseparable, right? And what I think a lot of folks don't recognize, and I bumped into this recently. It's not the only group, but one pattern is folks who've had a lot of success inside of other organizations or enterprises and go start their own thing.
Right.
They don't realize how personal this journey is,
Yes.
right? And how influential that inner game is, in line with that. So
Mhm.
let's dive into this a little bit. Um, One of the things that I know entrepreneurs, study after study, one of the main things they're looking for is freedom, right? Freedom, autonomy, something along those lines.
That's right.
But that can mean a lot of things, and in fact, in your book, you lay out multiple types of freedom. So maybe just walk us very briefly, what are these different types of freedom, and why is it important to recognize that freedom isn't just one kind of blob?
I like how you said that. Well, yeah, in fact, I call it my freedom lifestyle formula. By the way, they call me the Sheldon Cooper of self-help. I'm like the nerdiest nerd in this industry. So that's why in my books and my coaching, I always have these Venn diagrams and checklists and step by step because, I paid a lot of people a lot of money and, to find out that there's no there there. They never gave me like a checklist. I paid them a lot of money and they never told me what to do. And I'm like, dude, that's why I paid you. And they're like, yeah, go get clients. Well, how do you want me to do that? Well,
Right.
put out value. Okay, I'm gonna punch you in the face right now. I mean, no kidding, right? This is like no duh. So anyway, so that's why being the nerd that I am, I'm like, I wish someone would have given me this. I'd be a gazillionaire by now. But anyway, I had to figure it out on my own. Anyway, so my job is, of course, to help people save that time, money, and effort. But anyway, so going back to my freedom lifestyle formula,
Yeah.
what I realized, and I was actually this came to me in a meditation one morning. I was meditating, what I do every morning, and I was asking myself, so why are you in business? What is it you really want? Oh, we want money. We want it. Yeah. But what are we really talking about here? And it really just kind of came to me. And I realized that freedom really boils down to these four different elements, as I talk about in the book. And so those elements are time, energy, relationships, and money. Time, energy, relationships, and money. And so think about time, right? So time is actually the most valuable resource. Why? Because it's the only one that we can never replace. All of Bill Gates' billions can't buy 1 minute of yesterday, right? So also in the game of life, Father Time is undefeated, right? So
Yes.
clock is ticking on all of us. I don't mean to be morbid, but that's the fact. But anyway, so the point is, what's so funny about that, this very point, is that everybody acts as if they're going to live forever, right? So time is the one thing that most people are wasting so much of, right? So the number one objection that I get, and I'm sure probably everybody listening to this program has heard this a million times. Oh yeah, no, I'd love to do that, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time. Really? You don't have the time? So you're telling me that Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, they all have more time than you? What? So what I do is like, confront people in a loving way, but say, dude, no, that's a lie that you're telling yourself. You're believing this lie. All right.
Mm.
So that's one element of time, which we could go on about, but we don't have the time. But anyway, so that's time. And then of course we have energy. Energy is how you're going through your day, how you're going through your life, right? So there's two types of energy, positive and negative. Well, unfortunately, most people are going through their life pretty negative, sad, frustrated, whatever. And so we have to raise that energy. So that's an important element of freedom. Then relationships, right? And well, what I always say is that, most people have a lot of stress and the stress is caused by money, relationships, and, health. But, that's the combination that we all have to deal with. So, but in relationships, we have your personal and your professional relationships. If those aren't at a 10 out of 10, you're really not going to have that freedom. And then, of course, money, right? Money is important. I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. So I know what it's like to not have money. And there's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about not having money. Why? Because money gives you choices. Money gives you choices. If you don't have money, then you don't have options. That's how I grew up. I didn't have any options. So I had to create all this for myself. When you look at those things, time, energy, relationships, and money, if you have an abundance of all those, well, then you're living a freedom lifestyle. And quite frankly, that's why you got into business in the first place. The problem is
100%.
you're probably not experiencing that right now. So that's why you got to put this formula in place.
I love that. You've mentioned, both in this conversation and in your book, a very similar experience that I've had, and I've found a lot of entrepreneurs have, and that is they've they've bumped into a challenge, maybe feel like they can't do it on their own, maybe feel like they could, but they could do it faster with somebody else, and they go out and they hire someone to help, right? A guru, a coach, a consultant, whatever it may be. And folks who listen to the show have probably heard I lost more money following the advice of well-meaning but misinformed coaches than I did any decision I made on my own. And that creates this really scary dynamic because then after that, if I bumped into a challenge that I couldn't figure it out, I guess it was like, well, no one can figure it out. I never felt more isolated than I did in the wake of those events. And
Yeah.
so, having had a similar experience, what have you learned about finding a great coach, avoiding some of those setbacks and issues?
Yeah, it's really tough. And that's why right now we live in what I call a trust recession because, see, there's so many, let's see, how can I put this nicely? Lying sociopaths out there. And so, because they're lying sociopaths, they really don't care. And so, what I finally, after, and believe me, I spent hundreds of thousands also to find out there's no there there. They can't teach their way out of a paper bag. But what I realized after I went through that is that when you look at most of these people, what they're most or only success stories themselves, right? So
Mm.
if you are looking at these gurus and they're, okay, here's my jet, here's my helicopter, here's my yacht, here's my Lambo. That's great. Have you helped anyone else make money? And usually you don't see too many of that, right? You see it's all about them. So that's a huge red flag now that people need to watch out for. Is that guru's only success story themselves? Right. So that's why when you go to, for example, when you go to breakthroughwithnoah.com, you'll just see hundreds of examples and case studies
Yes.
of clients that I've helped
Yeah.
because we live in a trust recession, because of all these lying sociopaths. Well, that's why, people like you and me and the folks watching this program, we have to have an overabundance of proof, an overabundance of proof that is not only ourselves. Of course, you got to be successful, right? We don't want to follow somebody who's living in a van down by the river, to borrow Chris Farley's famous phrase. But, so yes, you want to be successful, but I think it's even more important that you have case studies, showing that your formula, your system, your methodology works for others as well. Whether it's you're helping people make more money or lose weight or have happy relationships, whatever it is, you just got to get that proof from others to show that your thing works.
Yeah. We we're so often out there as doers, right? As builders, we're looking for someone who's built something bigger, right? Thinking that if they've walked down this road, they can surely help
That's
me.
right.
And that's not inherently wrong, but it's also not inherently right.
Exactly.
And I love your attention to this, and I think it's such an important point. The best thing you can do in looking for a coach is to not look at their own success. I've actually seen some who didn't have great success as individuals or as entrepreneurs. There are actually folks, even in our program, who are coaches. They're amazing, but they failed as entrepreneurs. But in how they failed, they learned so much, and in the way that they embraced that failure and learned from it, their passion is to prevent other people from sharing that same story.
That's right.
And so if you weigh them by their own story, it's not all that great. But if you look at the people that they've helped, right, and the number of folks that have tripled in a year or quadrupled in a year, so it's a brilliant way to look at it. A brilliant question to ask is, who else have you helped?
That's
I
right.
love that. I love that. I love that.
Right.
So very important. Let's go back to our entrepreneurs here for just a moment, and kind of we're not going to go through the whole book, but I kind of want to introduce what else is coming here. So in the system and in the book, you lay out these 5 pieces: beliefs, habits, offers, funnels, and traffic, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And they what I love about that is you start with the stuff that really is the most important and the hardest part, and that is the person looking at us in the mirror, right? I want to take just a quick peek at habits because I've found some folks can get in that, they can understand, yes, it's me, yes, I need to change, but it never really sticks, right? And they're just kind of chronically coming back to and, staring at their belly button. How do we get out of that mode, right? What are some habits, some seven-figure habits that
Yeah.
serve entrepreneurs really well?
Well, this goes back to my power habit system. So the full system that I developed many years ago is called the Power Habits of Unconsciously Successful People. Now, that's a mouthful, but it's really very simple. What I realized after, reading all these books, reading every self-help book, and they all say the same thing, and really trying and working hard, but I just couldn't get it to work. I realized that highly successful people are actually doing these unconscious habits that
Mm,
they don't even know they're doing, number one, and therefore, number two, they can never teach you. Right? So this is another reason why the gurus became so successful. But if you ask them what they did, they don't really know. So they're telling you things that aren't necessarily wrong, but also they're not helpful. So it's like, hey, set your goals and work hard and focus. Yeah, no kidding. I knew all that. You're not helping me, right? So, but they don't really know what they did. You know what I mean? So they're unconscious. They're literally unconscious. So what I did, being the nerd that I am, I broke it down, and these are the 11 unconscious habits that they're doing, and that's why when you look at other books or works like Think and Grow Rich or Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, those are great books. They're seminal books. But what the problem is that those are about the conscious habits of successful people. Well, it's the iceberg principle, right? 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions are unconscious. And so if you're only working on the 5%, imagine if you were going into battle and you got 5 guys fighting 95 guys. Which one do you think is going to win, right? So that's why our unconscious is the thing that always wins. So that's why with my power habit system, we're taking what's in the unconscious and bringing it to the conscious mind. And that's what gives people power. So, one of the things that I talk about all the time is systems of support, that you've got to get these systems in place because your business is like your body. Your body is a bunch of systems that work together. And if something isn't working, then you got a problem, right? Same thing with your house. It's a bunch of systems that you don't really think about until they break. If you lose your electricity, that's the only time you think about it. It's like, oh, what? The thing doesn't work, right? So but it's exactly like that with your business. And so, looking at the systems, that's one of the habits that unconsciously successful people do that they don't really know they're doing. So you could interview them all day and they would be like, yeah, do it. Do what? What do you want me to do? Well, just, focus. Forget you. Anyway, the point.
yep.
But anyway, that's just an example of these unconscious habits. There's 11 total. And, that's what really, that is, I would say, the main thing that causes that hockey stick growth I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And again, just to repeat, if you don't deal with the inner game stuff first, you just accelerate something that's broken, right? Flawed, and it's not pretty. So there's a question, Noah, that I ask all my guests, and I'm very intrigued to see what you'd have to say. So, what would you say is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
It really is that if you don't focus on your inner game first, you are going to be building on a house of sand, right? So it's my favorite Venn diagram, right? You've got inner game and outer game, and when those two things come together, that's when you have the phenomenon called success. The problem is, like Adam, that story I told you earlier. Most entrepreneurs are working really hard on their outer game, which you have to do it. You have to do it. But based on my experience of helping my clients add over $3 billion collectively, over the last 30 years, 90% of that revenue growth, of that, boost, that income really comes from mastering your inner game. So I wish more people knew how to do that. And of course, I'd love to help more people figure out how to do that and help them master their inner game so they can really get that hockey stick growth and have that freedom that we were talking about.
Yes. Speaking of which, you've laid out a lot of what we talked about here today in your book, The Seven-Figure Expert, Your Ultimate Guide to a Life with More Impact, Influence, and Financial Freedom. Tell us, where can folks get a copy of the book and learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah, you can get a copy of this book. I'll just hold it up so you can see what it looks like. So it's called The Seven-Figure Expert, as you mentioned. So it's very easy to remember, sevenfigureexpertbook.com. Easy to remember, sevenfigureexpertbook.com. And because you're watching this program, the book is free. I've covered the cost of the book. We just ask you to cover the shipping. right? So just go to sevenfigureexpertbook.com, and the book is free. And also, if you want to talk to me or one of my coaches to help you get that breakthrough, just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com. Easy to remember, right? I'm known as the breakthrough coach. So breakthroughwithnoah.com, and you can book a 15-minute business evaluation, and you'll walk away with a 3-step plan to really grow your business over the next 12 months, really while working less and winning your life back at the same time. So that's breakthroughwithnoah.com.
Fantastic. Dr. Noah St. John, so glad you were able to be with us here on the show. Just loved every bit of this conversation. I say this every once in a while, but there are some conversations that you listen to once. There are some that you have to listen to twice or 3 times, and this is one of those. So if you made it this far with us, go back and do it again. You will find you missed about half of what he said. It's just packed with wisdom and gold in there. So thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate having you here. And for those of you watching and listening, you know that your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.